Hi, hope everyone's doing well. Welcome back. I'm glad you're here. And today we are going to discuss something specific regarding relationships. Now, sometimes on here we will be discussing specific relationship topics because I know that a lot of teens, that's when you're starting to navigate the world of relationships, whether that's friends or romantic or, your relationships with teachers and parents. We can all use some guidance when it comes to relationships. Even people who are pros or, counselors who tend to deal with those things a lot, we're all still learning because relationships are complicated. So many times when teens have, discussed with me that, their relationship has ended or, they've ended it, whatever the case may be, I hear a lot of the same things, like they lost feelings or they got bored, which is totally valid. But what I do want to do is help guide you to a concept that might help you in the future when deciding, whether or not to date someone. And that concept is consistency without boredom. It's okay if, you're dating someone and you lose feelings. You decide it's not exciting for you in any way. Like totally valid. That happens. But I would encourage you to just make sure that you are considering the other person's feelings when you are calling it off. That can be very hard to hear of like, you got bored or you lost feelings. Those phrases can be hurtful and make a person feel like it's all about them when it may not really be all about them. Maybe you guys just aren't connecting in a way that works for you. So, there are many phrases that you could say to address this, but basically, just be kind in the way that you are calling this off. You could say, I had a great time with you, but it's not working for me. Or, I need to explore relationships a little more, or I need to figure out what I want. Just try not to make it super personal and hurtful about them. Okay, now on to the consistency without boredom concept. Now, when you start getting more serious about, wanting to stay with someone and not kind of going from, thing to thing where you're just kind of having fun and you like someone for a couple weeks and then you don't, when you're ready to commit to something longer or, you feel like it's an appropriate time or you meet the appropriate person, here's just something to look out for. So being consistent means they're not changing things up on you all the time. They tell you they'll call and they call, or, they let you know maybe why they didn't and it feels like legitimate and honest. Um, you have some consistency in how you're treated. They treat you kindly, they treat your friends kindly, they consistently are honest and being the person they claim to be and that you first thought they were. That is consistency. You're not constantly second guessing who this person is and feeling like they're giving you mixed signals about who they are and what they want and how they treat you. Now, we all know what boredom is, but I'm just going to go into it a little bit before I put these two together. Okay, so boredom. You're with them and you're bored. You're not stimulated mentally. You don't find it super fun to be around them. Those are signs of boredom. If you are consistently finding that other people are boring to you when you're dating for a while, that might be something you need to look into about yourself. Is it who you're choosing, or are you just bored by like having a very long relationship? Those are things to look into. Because ideally, when we have a healthy relationship, we will have consistency, but we won't be bored. So, for example, I will use a little personal things in here too, 'cause it does help to hear like personal examples from people so you know what they're talking about. So I had a relationship when I was about your age, like 14 years old. Yeah, 14, 15. And I was with somebody that definitely was not boring. I felt like it was very, like I didn't know what was going to happen. It was very exciting. He was very like different, but it wasn't a good kind of excitement. I would actually say now, with the knowledge I have as an adult, that it was anxiety that I was experiencing being with this person. It felt like, I didn't really know who he was. I got mixed signals about things. He was inconsistent, meaning I'd be treated one way one day and one day the next. And I didn't really feel like he truly was with me because he liked me and wanted to be with me. It just felt like just constantly mixed signals and unclear. That's what I'm talking about here, that's not really healthy. And although it was exciting for a while, ultimately it made me feel really bad and it was not a good, healthy situation. The relationships I've had since then that were consistency without boredom look differently. I knew who that person was. They stayed the person they are, even though they changed. They stayed a kind person, a funny person, a person I could connect with and have fun with, even if we changed. And I knew they were there because they genuinely liked me and treated me well, and I did the same. And I didn't always know what was going to happen next or where life was going to take us, but in a healthy way, like where we would explore it together and like figure out new things about each other. But we generally knew at our core who the other person was and how we were going to be treated, which was well on a regular basis, and felt comfortable to be myself. And we would try new things. We were interested in trying the same new things. I remember speaking to a girl in one of my classes last year that was kind of iffy about a boy she was dating. And her main concern was, she's like, he's really nice to me, but he's not nice to my friends. And I remember telling her, like, obviously do what you got to do to explore this relationship, but, what do you think of someone that's just like only nice to you and they display all these other relationships elsewhere? Do you want to be with someone that's not kind to your friends? What if he changes his mind about how he treats you? Just consider those things. We need to read more into how people are and like what kind of person they are based on how they treat other people around us too, not just you. So that is something to consider as well. And ended up, when they broke up, he didn't treat her very nicely. So, I mean, it is important to pay attention to how the person you like or your friends behave with other people. Now, obviously, nobody is going to get along with or like everybody, and that's valid. But if they're being like just really nasty, using nasty words, talking down to them and making them feel very small, that's something to pay attention to. The last thing I want to show you are some clips from relationships that I've seen on TV, either from shows that you guys might like or shows that I like, that kind of show you this concept of consistency without boredom. Be warned before this part, there are some spoilers for these shows. So if it's something you're in the middle of watching or you probably will watch in the future, maybe skip some of these parts so you don't spoil it for yourself. First is David and Patrick on Schitt's Creek. This couple is so lovable. They're just so sweet to each other. And I mean, I think if you've seen the show, you can definitely attest to the fact that they're definitely not boring together. I mean, I don't think it's possible to have the word boring come to you when it comes to David, because David is just hilarious and silly and unique. And, Patrick is very sweet and chill. So it feels like they kind of balance each other out. And so I feel like that's a good example of the consistency without boredom thing. They do adventurous things together. They try new things, but they have this consistency thing in how they treat each other throughout their relationship. Another worth mentioning in Schitt's Creek is Alexis and Ted. And even though they didn't work out,
you're the sweetest man I've ever known.
As you might hear sometimes in other places, longevity isn't the thing that illustrates like a good relationship. You know, relationships end, and that's okay. It happens. The thing is like whether it ends in a very short time period or it lasts a long time, you know, is it healthy? Is it that consistency without boredom thing that tends to be a part of healthy relationships? And even though Alexis and Ted break up, even their breakup was very healthy.
You're building something special here, Alexis.
They were supporting each other and they loved each other. If you haven't watched this show, it's such a good show. I would even say that their parents, Moira and Johnny, you know, have a definitely not boring but consistent dynamic with each other. They accept each other for who they are and their quirks and their weirdness, and they make it work. Okay, another show that I have to mention, you know, whenever we're talking about healthy relationships, because it demonstrates so many, is Ted Lasso. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso, I highly recommend it. It's so good. The first one for Ted Lasso is Rebecca and Ted, and they're friends, but definitely have that consistency without boredom thing going. So Rebecca in the show starts off not having the best intentions, isn't really a good friend. Ted Lasso is a good friend to everybody, but she ends up, you know, doing some things that hurt him, and she gives him a very sincere apology.
Ted, I'm so sorry.
And, you know, from then on, they keep building their friendship, and they're just always there for each other through really difficult things.
Okay, you're having a panic attack. Just breathe.
Constantly support each other and see the best in each other. I think another worth mentioning in Ted Lasso, I mean, there's so many, but would be Keely and Roy. And again, you know, doesn't last forever, you know, but they were so like quirky and like they were so fun and kind to each other throughout. Even when it ends, it's not a nasty thing. Another couple worth mentioning is Chidi and Eleanor in The Good Place. So in The Good Place, another great show worth watching. I'm not going to go too much into it, but basically they form a friendship and then it blossoms into a relationship.
That's what Chidi would do for me.
So the thing with them that seems so great throughout is they're both so different, and ultimately they end up balancing each other out a lot.
You're a nice person, Chidi.
And they're kind of opposite each other, and you can see how that kind of works in their favor in their relationship dynamic. So definitely not boring because they're different from each other, but they stay consistently supportive and thoughtful and kind to each other throughout. And if you remember Frozen 1, Anna was charmed by Hans, who seems great and, you know, says all the right things, which some people do that. You know, everyone's at their best at first when they're trying to form relationships for whatever reason, and you just got to, you know, keep your eye out for those red flags. Hans had a lot of red flags eventually. So anyway, she meets Kristoff. They form what I consider to be like just a friendship for a while, and then it grows into something more. And then we see in Frozen 2 how Kristoff is just like openly very in love with her, and even though they have some struggles, you know, they're there and they support each other and they communicate, and they still have fun and go on adventures and keep each other interested, but consistency, not boredom, is going on there. And Kristoff has like all the green flags. So I love Kristoff. While we're on the Frozen thing, you got to think about Anna and Elsa's relationship too, how they go through hard times and they have an engaged relationship with each other, but it doesn't mean they haven't gone through difficult things, you know, and they've hurt each other and they've apologized, but you know, for the most part, they're consistently like supportive and there for each other and love each other and have adventures together. I hope you've learned something from this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know I've mentioned consistency without boredom, consistency without boredom, consistency without boredom like 1,000 times, and I'm even tired of hearing it, but I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that moving forward, you know, when you're ready to consider a little bit more about the healthy dynamics that go into relationships that work for you, that, you know, this might be something you think about. So have a great day. Take care of yourself.